Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium. It's an opportunity for us to have a spiritual conversation regarding spiritualism, mediumship, healing, faith, family, or more. And it's always a wonderful adventure. This is year 7 of Wednesdays with Willa. So I've got lots of archive videos of past shows that you can binge watch to your heart's content. People tell me that they do that all the time. And it's just a wonderful way to educate yourself about those topics. And you can even type in your favorite guest's name or topics, and all of those things will populate for you so you can enjoy to enjoy spiritualism, enjoy mediumship and healing as well. And it's always a special delight to have someone new on the show. And today we have Penny Hayward. Hello, Penny.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm delighted that you could join us. And you can probably tell Penny is from the United Kingdom by that wonderful accent that she has. And you're going to get to really love her and her voice today. She is a medium, and she will be visiting here in Lilydale for the 2024 summer season, which starts June 21st and runs till September 1st. And you will be here for a couple of different workshops that you're co-teaching with Richard Stuttle, who
That's
has
right.
also been on the show, who's a spirit artist. And for those of you who are watching, you can look for the ticket links that are posted, and you can go ahead and register for those classes very easily by clicking the link and registering on the lilydaleassembly.org website. But Penny Hayward has been working publicly as a medium since 2010. And
Mhm.
you do speaking, you do teaching, you do demonstrating, and you're also a course organizer and tutor at the Findlay College, and an
Yes.
assessor and officiant for the Spiritualists National Union.
Mhm.
You hold certification for speaking, teaching, assessing, and demonstration of evidential mediumship. And as I mentioned, Penny lives in the United Kingdom, and we're
Mhm.
glad that she could be here today. Our topic for today is bringing back science into spiritualism. And that is certainly a hot topic. A lot of my latest shows are really focusing in on science. So I'm excited to hear what Penny has to share with us today so that we can really explore spiritualism from that vantage point. A lot of times we talk about the religion of spiritualism, the philosophy of spiritualism, and it's very important to talk about the science.
Yes, it is. And it's exciting to be here to talk about it with you, Willa. So thank you so much for encouraging this opportunity and the topic as well. So where should we start? Should we start with sort of how it all started my end or where my interest
Absolutely.
came?
Where you think things will come in. I know I've discussed with folks that wonderful book called The History of Spiritualism by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and how important
Mhm.
that is for those who are interested in spiritualism to have a background in that. It really gives you a wonderful overview of the Victorian times, of how they tested mediums and what research was involved and some of the science of the day. And then fast forward to today, there's been a lot that's happened throughout those intervening years, and a lot that is going on in our current present day to really
Mm.
research and bring that understanding of mediumship and spirit communication and how the divine is working in all of our lives. So yes, if wherever in that framework you'd like to start us, that'd be great.
Sounds good. Well, I think from my personal perception, when I was doing all my coursework, looking into spiritualism, the history of spiritualism, and I did try very hard to stay focused on reading Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's History of Spiritualism because it's pretty hard going, its language, I have to say, but it is interesting. So I don't mean to bring it any form of discredit. And of course, there was Harry Boddington's University of Spiritualism, and there are many, many books. And
Oh,
over the years, I've been collecting more and more books, more than I have time to read. But um, I'm chewing through them as best I can. And I'm finding that some of the old spiritualist or theosophical books have absolute gold in them when it comes
Hmm.
to sort of people that came into spiritualism to disprove it. You know, they were going to go in and debunk it, and they were scientists and all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds, professionals of many types. And they were so avidly wanting to debunk spiritualism that they became the best spiritualists we've ever had, you know.
Right.
And writing books and what have you, Arthur Conan being one. But you mentioned that I'm a tutor and course organizer at the Arthur Findlay College, and Arthur Findlay was a researcher himself. He wasn't a medium, but he did invite mediums to his home, which is now a wonderful school and or college, and where we have residential courses. And he dedicated that to psychical research. And over the years, it seems to me, my perception, that developing mediumship has really gone up and up and up. The philosophy of spiritualism went down and down and down. And the science of spiritualism kind of poofed into thin air, it seems. So it's not to say that there aren't people seriously researching psi phenomena, because they have. And psi phenomena can be anything from near-death experiences, astral traveling, spoon bending. It can be anything. It can be really anything. And anything that's not quite known. And I think that or seen with the physical. And consciousness is an enormous topic at the moment as well. And so consciousness was something that I started to become more and more curious about. And through my development as a medium and learning how to connect with the spirit world and how to bring, do trance and have your guide come forward or whatever it might be, I still wanted to know, yes, but how does it work? And so I'm not sure that I know yet either, but I've been saying to people recently that a physicist said that if you think you understand quantum physics, then you don't understand quantum physics. And I think the same applies for consciousness. If you think you understand consciousness, then you don't understand consciousness. So certainly there are people from various scientific, medical, spiritual backgrounds that are all looking into consciousness and what that may be and how that may be tested, which is a tricky one, but I'll go into that in a minute. And I've always also had this knowing, if you like, that quantum physics must have something to do with our ability as mediums. So I started listening to YouTube sessions in the middle of the night on lectures on quantum physics, and I thought, geez, it'd be really great to work with researchers. I don't mind being tested, And so, meantime, I was reading books by various spiritualists and others, and past history that we have of research and mediums being put to the test. Now, I have to say, some of our pioneers were uh, rigorously tested beyond measure. I mean, you know, I know this might be PG in some respects, but they went above and beyond to be personally um, uh, investigated in quite personal ways.
Personal and invasive ways.
Yes, that's right, and very invasive. And so, certainly our pioneers went above and beyond. They didn't believe, they knew. And I think that's the whole thing, and that's where I'm at. I know that there is an afterlife. No one needs to prove that to me. And but I had to find my way with it because I have a little tiny skeptic inside me. So,
There
but
is a place for healthy skepticism. I think it's important to
yeah,
have a measure of that. And as you said, it is so important. You know, one of the things that spiritualism really brings to the game of life is that understanding is not about belief. It's about that knowing. And that's
yeah,
the same thing when it comes to consciousness. It's not
yeah,
about understanding it. It's about being in that space of deep knowing,
yeah,
right? And feeling that still point within you that is that connection with the
yeah,
divine.
yeah.
And it's really
And
beautiful.
there is no doubt in that. There is no question in that. It is. And it's a knowing. It is a knowing as much as it is anything that is convincing to oneself. So nobody else can really tell you that. That's an experience and a personal one. And that's what our soul is, a soul that's on a journey through the physical human experience through an individual perception. But we're all connected and we're all part of that great consciousness, the one consciousness. And so there are many facets to this, and I put those thoughts out there, and that's part of consciousness to me. If you put it out there, it will come back to you, and you just have to be prepared to step into the unknown and see where it takes you. And so I don't profess to be a highly intellectual researcher, but I'm certainly a deeply curious, slightly skeptical medium, and I think the slight skepticism helps you to keep questioning and keep pushing, not to just take the first answer is the right answer. There has to be a little bit of pushing the boundaries, don't you think? Um, so fast forward, and I was fortunate enough to become a tutor and be asked to be a course organizer, and I was asked to do something different. So I thought, right, something different for the Arthur Findlay College is a weekend course on consciousness, and I'll bring a physicist and I'll bring a Monroe Institute engineer, and then we can have three perspectives, a medium's perspective, a physicist, and a Monroe Institute engineer. And because, of course, Monroe Institute is all about exploring consciousness. So I put that weekend on, and it's in its second year this year, so third year will be next January. So and I just tried to bring a different perspective each year, some different people to talk about consciousness and present their perception of it, along with obviously the mediumship side.
I think it's important to have those thoughtful kind of panels. You know, in spiritualism, we believe very strongly in the thought exchange
Mm.
and
Yeah, and I
that
think there's
discovery that happens in the discussion or the conversation, the ahas.
absolutely. And I think um there should be more collaboration and discussion, and this is all part of what I'm trying to do, like build a bridge, if you like. And it's not to say there aren't people doing that out there somewhere, but the Spiritualists National Union is an international organization, and you know and Lilydale is a huge organization of itself, and so I'm sure headway is made here, there, and everywhere, but wouldn't it be good if we all started to really interconnect? So the I was then asked to do a week's course, and I thought, what can I do that's different at the Findlay College to every other course? And so I thought, I know, I'll do a science and psychical research week. That's what I'll do. So I certainly pick difficult things to arrange because it's not easy to coordinate these sorts of things within certain guidelines and parameters and what have you. But I've done it for the second year, and I'm excited for the next year, which will be April next year. So there was something quite exciting that happened this year, and it's leading into some research projects. And there's some guys that have come up with an interesting contraption which is called weird. And they really want to make weird wonderful and weird good and cool. You know, it's cool to be weird, but it's spelt WYRD, as opposed to, you know, the English version of weird. And hey, I think it's great to let your weird light shine, you know. So it's cool to be weird, and these guys really want weird to be cool. So there are a couple of Europeans that have come up with this random event generator, essentially. So you may have heard that to explore consciousness, to explore quantum physics, there are random event generators that are used. And these guys came up with this weirdoscope. And it has two random event generators inside, which should be completely independent of each other, doing completely random zeros and ones. And shouldn't be bothered about anything happening in the room that it's in or the environment. So one of these researchers that I had as a guest on the course asked these guys, oh, hey, can I borrow your weirdoscope and take it down the Arthur Findlay College? And so we had a session, and there was 16 students and myself. So I was 0 and the rest were numbered 1 to 16. And we had a couple of EMF readers in the center of the circle. We had a random event generating lamp in the center as well. So that should, you know, show different colors randomly. There shouldn't be any kind of coincidence to it. And we also put my mobile phone in the center on record so that it would record live what was happening. And meanwhile, the researcher was off to one side, sat at a table with the weirdoscope and a pen and a piece of paper to also make notes. And it wasn't too long until we had, as somebody become aware of the spirit world. And just to sort of speed the story up, it turned out that it was my father. And I was super excited. So more so because it was just a few days after his 1 year anniversary of passing. And so it was just amazing and incredible. And so I there was the person who was aware of the spirit communicator, unknown at the time, was new to connecting with spirit. So I tried to encourage her to get some more. And in the end, I said, look, I understand the information. And then somebody else said they could. And I'm like, no.
Like, it's mine.
Yeah, it's fine. And he was. um, and then Kirsty, who was the researcher, she could also understand it. So we did we had a reading on the EMF reader to say spirit was there. So so we asked, are you here for someone in the circle? Yes. So then I said, okay, why don't you ask if it's your person, to student number, whatever. So she asked, nothing happened on the EMF reader. Then the researcher, she asked, nothing happened. And then I said, Dad, is that you? And it just went crazy. It went up to like 64 on the reader or something. And the random event generator went bright blue or purple. I can't remember, whatever the color was. And anyway, so then I started to ask questions, and so obviously it's a, if you get a response on the EMF reader, it's a yes. So, and if there's nothing, then it's a no. So we did that for a while, and good old Dad, he was with us for about half an hour, and it was just the best thing ever. I felt like I was on cloud nine afterwards. Anyway, then a young girl came through for a young girl also in the circle, and that was very emotional and very different type of communication. So anyway, the most interesting part of all of this is the weirdoscope. And so you've got this two random event generators meant to be just doing their own thing. But what happened was there was a massive spike, 14,000 to 1 outside chance expectation when it was Dad, is that you? And there was a reaction. So so there's a time to it. There's like a built-in clock, and there's all sorts of stuff. So you could also tell the time by my phone in the recording, and everything correlates. And anyway, I found out even just today that the guys from Weird looked at the data, listened to the recording, and they're like excited. They're like, oh my God, this is fantastic. So I don't know their choice of words, but they're mine. And so, so now we're looking to put together a collaborative research project. So, I get to work every week in different ways, and also around the world. And I'm kind of like hoping that I can get to take this around with me, and do lots of different experiments like that to generate data, so that these guys have a wealth of data to draw from. So it's very early stages at the moment, and we need to put in the proposal and look to get some funding. And I think the Society of Psychical Research is also interested in this sort of collaboration. So that would be pretty cool.
Sounds like it'd be right up their alley.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's right up mine as well, because then you've got this information that is beyond coincidence, beyond, well, way outside chance expectation. So if you're an engineer and a geek, and somebody who wants to kind of put this to the test, then this is a modern way, less invasive, and a good way to show that there is something happening outside our human physical senses,
Mhm.
and that what mediums are experiencing is being picked up by the technology, such as the weirdoscope and the EMF readers, etc. So I have also been speaking with other organizations. We were chatting briefly before the show about ions, and the Society for Psychical Research. And I did reach out to Windbridge. I'd like to reach out to them again. And various universities in England are also exploring mediumship and psychology and mediumship and the differences. And so after Open Week at the Arthur Findlay College, I had another university approach me and wants to collaborate. So there's a couple of universities, a couple of different research organizations, and also there's a wonderful organization in the UK which has international reach called the Science and Medical Network,
Mm.
of which I've joined as a member, and the Galileo Commission. And they are like people from uh, professional backgrounds like psychologists, psychiatrists, medical backgrounds that are very supportive of spiritual practices, shall we say. So, and they've all got PhDs and all that sort of thing. And they're looking at our side of thing from their side, like looking towards us from their side. But what I'm finding a bit frustrating is the terminology, because they're giving new terminology to what we know as the aura. So the aura, they're calling the biofield, or things like that. And it's something we might call the power was once upon a time called the psychic force. Um, and they're calling plasma something, so it's kind of like, well, hang on, we need to find some middle
Middle
ground here so
ground.
we all know what we're talking about.
And we've had a symposium that Shannon Taggart does every summer for quite, I don't know, it must be 10 years now. And it's usually a weekend during the summer season. And what she's been able to do is merge some of the academics that have been researching an aspect of spiritualism or mediumship or healing or those kinds of even parapsychology things, and
Yeah,
what that world thinks about
yeah,
what we do as mediums. And there
yeah.
there is that need to bridge the gap
Oh, yeah,
between
yeah,
what we're experiencing in the field, as it were, and the people that are maybe doing scientific research or even just postulating in an academic setting
yeah.
what is going on. And if we can maybe merge those, it could be really beautiful.
Yeah, and that is my aim. It's just a little one, but that's my aim.
We one. Oh goodness. Well, sometimes people put themselves up for big time projects, and you certainly have done
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, a long time ago, I had something come into my head, which was, if you don't aim high, you don't know how high you can go. So I kind of thought, it's been my philosophy for quite a few years now, probably 20 years. And that is, well, if I aim for like the next universe, then I might get to Venus. You know, I'm looking beyond the moon.
You should.
Um, and I think you got to sort of reach, don't you? And who knows where it can take us? I'm open. It may sort of go ooh plop, but if I don't try, then I don't know. And I think somebody's got to do it. And I think there needs to be that. And like I say, there could be other people out there doing it, and I just don't know. So
Yes,
that's great. That's
and there
cool.
are. Mhm. And
Um,
so trying to get them all under one umbrella, though, I tell you, it's probably going to be like herding cats to just
oh,
come here,
yeah,
kitty
that's
catty. Here we go to try
yeah,
to
probably
get them all
stray
together.
cats as well.
Exactly.
Even harder. But yeah, so that's a bit of a goal. And I think that there are organizations that are willing to talk, and I think the spiritualist community is willing to talk, but nobody's really like joining up the dots quite enough. And
Well,
it's
there is that issue of the mediums may not trust what
yeah.
somebody else is putting forward.
Mm,
The idea of the trying to debunk, when people go in with
yeah.
that attitude, it can affect the scientific research.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there's, everybody has their reason for why they might put their barriers up
Mm,
about this that are very valid.
I agree. And I think unfortunately there has been a historic mistrust between the scientific and the spiritualist communities, but I think we need to get over that now. And there was a time when the scientific community and the spiritualist communities were collaborating and were, writing some good information of its time. But nothing has advanced really. So even though there are all these wonderful PhDs and people out there that are looking from their side into the spiritual or spiritualist side, um, it's no different to what's been done before. So part of this aiming high is also to go, okay, well, we've proven and we're proving time and time again the same thing. Can we now move forward? Like, can we find a way to move together, to push the boundaries, to discover more of the unseen? And and I know that there are people out there in the technical and medical communities that want to do that, and I'm ready. I'm willing. I'll be tested. I'm going to have good days and I'm going to have bad days, but I'm willing to be tested. And so part of what I'm doing with the Spiritualists National Union is heading up a science working party, and we're starting to reach out to our membership and beyond for people that are interested. So putting in an expression of interest to be tested. So it might not happen for a year or two, but we've got to collect enough data from people. Are they just a healing medium? Are they just a evidential medium? Are they just a trance medium? Are they a medium that does it all? Who are you? What can you do? Are you willing to be tested? That's part of what we're doing at the moment. So there are forms that can be filled in online, and we're collating those at the moment. And obviously, people have to give their contact details. Otherwise, we can't contact you.
And so is this something that you are putting out just to people who are living in the United Kingdom? Are you, saying to the people here across the pond in good old United States that they can be part of your project as well?
Well, look, like I said, I'm aiming high. So the SNU does have a international membership. So that includes people over your side of the world. And I'm actually originally from Australia. So it also includes that side of the world as well as Europe. So I don't know what that looks like yet. So without having expressions of interest, we don't know who we've got. And part of one of the questions on there is, are you willing to travel to the UK? So, because at this stage, we'll probably do some of the research in the UK, but there may well be research that can be done online or virtually somehow, or through questionnaires. So another project, another collaboration that's in the pipeline, in the discussional phase, is with Oliver Lazar. And so he has an interest in mediums and mediumship and consciousness. And so again, this is very early stages, and we're looking at how that looks. And certainly because that's a questionnaire that would include anyone from around the world. And in fact, we want people from around the world. So that would be one of those types of opportunities. So obviously some research includes wearing like as a 24 or 30 kind of what do they call it?
Those
It's not
little
a
suction
probe.
cup things, are they the little
Yeah,
suction
the
cup ones?
electrode things that go all over your head. And so you can't do that online. Somebody has to physically be there to measure the brain waves and so on and so on. So that's another project that's in the making at the moment of researching mediums and having them wear the cap that has, I think it's 32 sensors. That's a better word, isn't it? Sensors.
Sensors. That, yeah, that is a better word.
So there's various projects that are sort of in the making and getting started, as well as looking for people locally and internationally to be a part of what we do. I'm really hoping that the Weirdoscope project comes off, because it's small enough to take with me, and I'm fortunate.
How big is it? Just to pause you there.
Oh, I don't know, like it's large, a small, half a shoebox. So, it's in like a wooden case. So it's probably about, I don't know, what's that? Maybe 5 or 6 inches square and, a few inches deep, I guess. So it's not impossible to carry around. I
And
mean,
then
that's
it sends out, emits things at that
no,
point,
no,
or it
this is
just
the whole
collects the
thing.
data somehow.
No, it's completely, it's apparently inside the box. It's got some kind of um not coating, but it's got something which means that it doesn't emit anything. So because it's got two random event generators inside, the box it's a wooden box, I think, and inside the wooden box, it's kind of coated with something so it stops any emissions going out or anything going in. So
Okay.
so that it is completely independent. It should not be affected by the environment or whatever's happening in the room, and it was.
And it was.
So it's also quite good for physical um uh phenomena, and I have spoken to some people about that. So now it's a case of speaking to the spirit world and making sure they're happy about it, because of course you have to especially with physical phenomena, make sure the spirit world's willing to
Gotta
cooperate
have
too.
your team. Your team has to be all on board for this to happen.
Absolutely. So in theory, it would not disturb a physical phenomena at all because of the way it's designed. So it's a pretty interesting piece of kit, and it is. I mean, people can buy it. Don't ask me how much it is. I think it was when I asked the price, I think it was sort of in the realms of affordability, depending on what you think affordable is.
What an answer.
So everybody's scale of affordability is going to
Right.
be different, right?
But
So
that's the answer they gave you.
no, no, no. That's the answer I'm giving you.
Oh,
So
okay.
I asked the question, how much is it? I was told and I can't remember. And
Uh,
I remember thinking, well, if I have a bit of a windfall, I could afford it, but it's not something I would race out and buy today, but I want one. Does that make sense? So it's sort of like I might have to save up a little bit
it
before I.
sounds thousands.
Yeah, I mean it's probably a couple.
Hmm.
In pounds, not dollars.
Right.
So the dollar's a little less than the pound. So that's what I mean. I think I can't remember. I don't want to say in case I'm wrong, but it was, let's say, a couple thousand around that.
There you go.
So I guess it depends on but also you have to understand the data. That's the other thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's all very well buying it, but then you're not going to understand what it says. So I guess there's some kind of
You have to send it off and have it be relayed back to you in the format
that
that you
I
want. And
Yeah, that I'm not sure about.
so if you travel with this box, does that mean that every now and then you have to upload the information to your people?
yeah, well, so what I'm hoping to do in this collaboration with these researchers is that it would be various different researchers as a collaboration, and then I would like to learn how to read it. So I think they do teach people how to analyze the data, how to read it. That doesn't, that's more mediumship language. So analyze the data. So so at the moment, with what happened recently, I did send, the researcher that was with us sent off that data to the guys. They analysed it, and they then listened to the voice file, which I sent off to them, and they had the notes as well from the researchers. So
They knew the
we have,
timing and what was read during, well, analyzed.
yeah. I mean, all I know is they were really excited by the data. So, if you're into data, it was exciting. But I'd like to be into the data enough to be able to talk to people about it. So to be able to do an experiment, then analyze the data, put it up on the screen and say, okay, well, at this time, this is what happened, and this is what it's showing on the graph, and that's so much percent outside chance expectation, which shows something's happening beyond normal consciousness and human understanding. So,
So do you think there'll ever be a combination of the sensors,
mm,
the weird box,
mm,
the EVP,
mm. Oh
and
yeah,
all like do you think there'll be just this combination of the whole
I'm
thing?
gonna aim for it.
Yeah.
You
Are
know,
there are there other things that you think are would be really wonderful avenues of research that
look, I've got
you're
a few
personally thinking?
ideas on some research projects. But because all of this is happening, it's kind of building up its own momentum. So we've sort of sent out some basic types of experiments to all our churches and individual members and asked them to take part, because even though they've been done before and they're basic types of research projects, it's just good to have the data, right? Having volume of data is important. So we've got that started. Now, in the meantime, I've been, for the love, because I don't get paid for any of it.
All volunteer. Yeah.
Yeah, all volunteer. So I've been trying to sort of talk with IONS and all the various other institutes, and I mentioned Monroe as well, where I'm working with one of their outreach trainers and from Italy. So, so I've been sort of networking. I've been trying to like collaborate, get discussions going, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just organically flowing now. So it's starting to find um its own way, a bit like water finds its own way. So that's what it's doing there. But then I've also got some thoughts and ideas for the SNU to do some research, to head up the research. But anybody who knows uh, research into mediumship, consciousness, anything like that, it needs funding, and it needs big funding. 500 quid's not going to do it. You need 50 grand, and you need to do it under strict guidelines, and you need a few years to be able to do it, and you need to build up the data and so on and so on. So that's why I've wanted to collaborate, because maybe it would just help everybody. The researchers want access to mediums, we want access to research. So, that's where it's all kind of coming from. And meanwhile, these other things are sort of springing up as being quite interesting. So I think it would be pretty cool to do research, and there might be people out there starting to do this already. Again, I don't know everything. I don't know what everybody else is doing because it's enough to try and keep up with myself.
Yes,
um,
indeed.
but looking into, let's say the brainwave activity of a developing medium versus an established medium. I've had my own brain waves done on the mind mirror by Monroe, the Monroe Institute mind mirror. And just with the four senses, not the fancy one. And I found it really interesting because what I thought would happen didn't. And it shows that actually the brainwave activity of a medium, whether it be trance mediumship or evidential mediumship, is right down in the lower delta theta states, and I would say epsilon, but they don't show that on there, and all the way up to gamma and hypergamma, and you have to have a wide alpha bridge for which, because the wide alpha bridge amplifies, this is if I'm getting this correct, amplifies or boosts the lower cycles per second and the higher cycles per second. So the wider your alpha bridge, the better, because it's boosting in each direction.
Mhm.
So I found that really fascinating. And then when I started to look at the brain, I thought, oh, it does make sense, because you've got to be in that heightened state of awareness with the unseen world in your non-physical sensitivity, but at the same time, your human sensitivity needs to be completely out the way. So that's what's on, to me, that's what's on pause in the lower states, all those physical senses. But then the non-physical senses are, into the heightened state of awareness. So that makes a bit more sense, doesn't it? Rather than, well, if you're in trance, you're in the delta theta states. And if you're in evidential mediumship, you're in the gamma states. That's not actually what's happening. It
No,
just
because
feels like that.
the vibrations are all happening
Yeah.
simultaneously. But
Yeah.
I think it has to do about higher voltage that's happening during that time. And
Yeah, so I think that's what the Alpha Bridge thing's all about. And that you're in this. When I teach people, I sort of talk about your human self versus your spiritual self. So your physical self versus your non-physical self, physical senses versus non-physical senses. So this is where I would start sort of saying, this is where I think quantum physics has something to do with it, because we're both here and not here.
mhm.
Because our non-physical self is not of matter, and not here. So we're in that sort of between state, if you like. So I think when we're in that mediumistic awareness, then we lose sense of our physical self, physical time, linear time, all that kind of thing, all goes away, all the stuff to do with the physical. And we're all sort of in that non-physical consciousness, quantum physics, I'm going to say, entanglement. Dare I say that? I'll probably be criticized by many people, but I've said it.
You said it. You said it. You're
I've
in the
said
moment
it. I put
now.
it out
Live
there.
dangerously. If you're gonna do this, you have to be willing to take a stand, right?
Yeah, well, I want to know. So that's what the research angle's all about, and I think a lot of people want to know. So let's hope the weirder scope and other types of technology are going to help us get there. Along, like you say, along with what if there was, a medium that was wired up to an EEG, and brain waves being measured at the same time, and an EMF reader and things like that. I think, you have to accept that if a medium's going to be wired up, I don't know if you've ever done it yourself, Willa, but you kind of you've got these wires coming off the back of you, so you can't be overly animated because also it would upset the technology. So so you've got to kind of
It's
be,
hard not to move if you're a mover.
yeah, yeah, sit on your hands. That's what I have to do, sit on my hands. But yeah, so it's and that's also part of the expression of interest thing that I was mentioning earlier. And then I think we'd also have to interview people or put them to an initial test, like get them to come in, get them be have them be tested because I know for myself, and maybe you would also know that we go through a lot of scrutiny to be a part of Lilydale or a part of the SNU and to be an accredited medium or a diploma holder or whatever it is. And so you go through rigorous testing, but not with wires. You still go through that testing, and that can alter your sense of self and your performance. So therefore, you have to be performing well under test conditions, and not everybody can. So
It's
it's
true.
great if you're willing, but will you also perform under those conditions? So I think we need to look at all these things, and that's kind of where we're aiming at the moment.
Penny,
And
that's a
beyond,
very good point about the fact that not everyone can be a testing medium,
yeah.
and that not everyone is going to be able to handle that level of scrutiny, but also there's that observer syndrome, right? That's
Mm,
a problem for almost all scientific experiments that happens, that knowing that you're being observed, that the
mm,
scientists are observing, that everybody will be looking at this later on.
mm.
Mediumship in and of itself is such a private, personal experience. There's a level of voyeurism that's associated with testing.
Yeah.
There's a level of not being able to communicate on some of those in those personal ways as a
Mm,
conversation.
yeah.
And I think it lends itself to dry
Mm,
evidence, but
mm,
not necessarily that heart evidence all the time. So I
mm.
think there is a missing component until they could get it so that people could move, people could express, people could really be fully in those moments, the way it is when you're in a mediumship reading, right? When you're
Yeah.
having that uh, beautiful symbiotic experience. So
Mm.
hopefully at some point it'll come to that level.
Well,
Um,
I think the weirder scope is
yeah,
pretty
getting
much
closer.
there and getting there, and maybe there'll be other technology that will follow and isn't invasive and what have you. I mean, the whole idea of the weirdoscope and the random event generators is that no one is observing. It's just a box in the room. It's an inanimate object that shouldn't be influenced by anything or influenced by anything or anyone influencing it, so but yet it
But yet
shows
we
that,
have thought, and we know
yeah.
vibrational frequencies can shift things and move
And
things.
that's what it shows. It's
Yeah,
showing,
exactly.
whoa, there's stuff happening here outside chance expectation.
I do
So
think what you brought up is really important about the science aspect, and just to underline for the viewers
mm,
today that in terms of this, you already have your proof that's necessary.
mm,
You have the curiosity to continue it into the science
mm.
avenue of this. Do you feel that there's that underpinning of trying to help other people get to that point? And
Look,
do you think that that's part of it? Because I
I'm
I think there's a personal experience for each person that
for
they have to get
sure.
to it. Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I've always said I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. So, for all the skeptics out there, be skeptic, be skeptical, skeptic away, because nobody is able to convince a skeptic. They have to have their own experience, which gives them their own evidence that is beyond chance expectation for them, right? So I've never been someone that's wanted to prove anything to anybody. And I think that's probably the most important thing, that it's like, hey, if you're interested, read it. If you're still skeptical, fine. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I'm just showing you what's happened here. And that's what, in terms of the scientific side of things and working with that. Um, and in some respects, I'm also looking to prove something to myself, because I know there's an afterlife. I don't need more evidence of that. However, having these things happen, having the weirdoscope there and the response that's happened, and it shows these things outside chance, 14,000% outside chance expectation, then it's validating. That's what I would say. So it's not that it's giving me proof, it's just more validation.
Very good.
Um and that's personal, and it's always going to be personal. It's going to be personal to the researchers, it's going to be personal to anybody who reads it afterwards. so so I'm not here to convince anybody, but I'm certainly along for a ride and see where it takes me.
That's beautiful. It's such a personal journey. Everyone has to come to the in their own time. And
Yeah.
sometimes people get so excited about the mediumship and they want somebody else to have that same kind of experience, but that person's not ready to take it
Mm.
on board. And so that's why it's always fun to connect with someone in spirit who didn't really understand about spirit contact, maybe made fun of it, and has
Yeah. Oh,
in the
yeah.
meantime had their comeuppance on the other side and is now wanting to communicate. So that's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, it happens a lot. I get real skeptical men coming through from the spirit world, but I really enjoy them. I
Yes.
really do. I find them fun and a bit interesting, because they're like, sometimes they're sarcastic and sometimes they're like, oh, okay, and other times they're like, I don't want to be here, but I love you too much, and it's quite funny, I think.
It's,
But
it's great.
yeah.
Oh,
It takes all types, doesn't it? And um, anyway, who knows where this will go? And I think that's half the fun. And if anybody's listening to this and they're excited to, or they're interested, like I said, I had somebody who's doing some real interesting research with the university. They've got some funding, and they were excited to hear about what the Science Working Party for the Spiritualists National Union are doing. And so they reached out and got in touch and want to collaborate. So, the more collaborations we have, the better. And the more we talk together, the better. And I kind of hope that maybe I or some others from the spiritualist community get invited into the science community more, so that we can talk from our perspective and get that bridge sort of built, and so we can go, hey guys, biofield, it's the aura, right?
that's
Let's just get that down. you know
exactly. You're so right.
well,
I
for
love
some
what
yes,
you
for some no. I mean,
I love what you've been sharing with us today. And if anyone does want to collaborate with you, how would you like them to contact?
well, they can get in touch with me through my website. I have a contact page. So my website's just my name, Penny Hayward, WARD, not double O, and .co.uk. So um, my name should be up on screen, I hope, for the spelling, and then it's just .co.uk. There's a contact page. Get in touch. Be amazing.
Yeah. Indicate that you're interested in the research and maybe
Mhm.
being a subject of the research.
Yeah, or even have a look on the SNU website. So that would be snu.org.uk. And then if you go to I want to learn, and then it drops a box down and there's science and psychical research, and that's where we're putting the forms to expression of interest. So depending on if you're a researcher and you want to collaborate, get in touch with me. If you want a expression of interest form, go to the SNU website. That's the best way.
And also, if anyone's interested in funding,
Even
donating
better.
to this, please contact Penny.
Yes, or through the SNU, of course, is absolutely fine. I don't want anyone thinking I'm taking people's money. It would all be legit,
Never.
done through the SNU, and there's a special fund that's allocated, which can only be used for psychical research. So any donations, that we do have a donation button on the page as well. But any donations or funding would be dedicated to research, and nothing else, which will be great.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on the show today and educating people about some of the research that's hopefully moving forward. And maybe we'll have to have you back on the show to discuss more about this or some other topics relating to mediumship. And just as a reminder, Penny Hayward is going to be here this summer in Lilydale for the 2024 summer season. She's got several workshops that she's co-teaching with Richard Stuttle. And it looks like that starts on July 29th and goes
Yeah,
till August 2nd. There are a bunch of different ones that people can become part of. They're going to be focusing on spirit art and mediumship and color and energy attunement and all of those good things. So I'll have that link so that people can go ahead and find out more about your particular workshops. And hope people will go ahead and get signed up if you haven't already and be part of this beautiful work with Penny. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Bye-bye.